The lawyer slid the document across the mahogany table, and I watched my father's signature dry under the overhead light. 10 years of my life reduced to a single line. Owner, Marcus Chen. Not me. Not the daughter who'd bled into every brick of that building. My baby brother, who'd shown up twice in a decade, suddenly owned everything. My mother reached across to squeeze my hand, mistaking my silence for acceptance. But I wasn't accepting anything. I was calculating. I'm Jade, 24, and I've been working since I could reach the counter. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. My parents opened Golden Lotus when I was 13, a tiny dim sum place in a strip mall between a laundromat and a tax office. 8 tables, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people, dreams bigger than the space could hold. My father cooked, my mother managed the books, and I did everything else. I started by washing dishes after school. By 14, I was taking orders. By 15, I was creating the weekly specials menu. By 16, I'd redesigned our entire ordering system and taught myself basic accounting to help my mother track inventory. I didn't think of it as sacrifice. It was family. It was ours. My brother Marcus was different. 6 years younger, naturally charming, the kind of kid who could smile his way out of any responsibility. While I spent weekends prepping vegetables and memorizing recipes, Marcus played basketball and video games. My parents never pushed him. Let him be a kid, my mother would say, as if I hadn't been one too. The restaurant grew slowly, painfully. We lived above it for 3 years. The smell of ginger and sesame oil soaked into everything we owned. My father worked 18-hour days. My mother's hands developed permanent calluses from chopping. And I learned the business from the inside out, not just cooking and serving, but supplier negotiations, staff management, marketing, customer retention. When I turned 18, I made a choice that would define the next decade. I got accepted to a culinary management program 3 hours away, full scholarship, incredible opportunity. But the restaurant was struggling. We'd just lost our head chef, 2 servers quit the same week, and my parents were drowning. I deferred admission for a year. Then another year, then I stopped talking about it entirely. Instead, I became indispensable. I created our social media presence, built a website, implemented online ordering before most restaurants in our area. I developed relationships with food bloggers, negotiated better rates with suppliers, redesigned the menu to appeal to both traditional and younger customers. When the restaurant next door closed, I convinced my parents to expand, knocked down a wall, doubled our seating, added a full bar. I took out a personal loan for the renovation. $25,000 at 20 years old. My parents were hesitant, worried about the debt, but I showed them the projections. The numbers didn't lie. Within 6 months, we'd tripled our revenue. Within a year, we'd paid off the loan. Within 2 years, Golden Lotus was the most popular Asian restaurant in a 30-mile radius. And through all of it, I paid myself barely above minimum wage. We'll make it right later, my father promised. When we're stable, when we're successful, you'll get everything you deserve. I believed him. I didn't need the money anyway. I lived in the apartment above the restaurant rent-free, ate family meals, had no time to spend money on anything else. Marcus, meanwhile, went to college. A good school, expensive, funded entirely by the restaurant's growing profits. He studied business, partied through most of his classes, changed his major twice. He'd come home for holidays, eat free meals, complain that the restaurant was kinda tacky now with all the expansion. My parents laughed it off. Boys will be boys. During his junior year, I implemented a full rebrand. New logo, new interior design, new plating presentation. I hired a photographer, created a cohesive visual identity, pitched us to local media. We got featured in a regional magazine as the hidden gem revolutionizing traditional dim sum. Reservations booked out 2 weeks in advance. We hired 4 more staff members. My father cried when he saw the line out the door on a random Tuesday night. "You did this," he said, gripping my shoulders. "You saved us, Jade." I thought that meant something. By the time Marcus graduated barely, after 5 years, Golden Lotus was worth close to $2 million. The building, the brand, the established customer base, the recipes I'd refined and documented, the systems I'd built. My parents owned the property outright. No debt, pure equity. They'd gone from struggling immigrants to successful business owners, and I'd been the engine behind that transformation. That's when the conversations started happening without me. I'd walk into the office and they'd stop talking. My mother would close her laptop quickly when I entered. My father started having meetings with their accountant, their lawyer, always scheduled during my rare days off. When I asked what was going on, they said they were planning for the future. "Good," I said. "I have some ideas about expanding to a second location. There's a space downtown that—" "Let's talk about it later," my father interrupted, his tone careful. Too careful. Marcus moved back home after graduation. No job lined up, no particular plan, just a vague idea that he'd figure things out. He started showing up at the restaurant occasionally, sitting at the bar, chatting with customers, taking photos for his Instagram. My parents beamed every time he walked in, as if his mere presence was a gift. "Marcus is thinking about getting involved in the business," my mother mentioned one evening, casual, like she was discussing the weather. Something cold settled in my stomach. Involved how? Just helping out, learning the ropes. It would be good for him. "I can teach him," I offered. "Show him the systems, the supplier relationships, Actually," my father interjected, "we thought it might be better if he learned from a fresh perspective. Maybe took some time to observe, develop his own ideas." His own ideas for the business I'd built from the ground up. Marcus's involvement consisted of showing up 3 days a week for 4-hour shifts, mostly spent taking business calls in the office or rearranging things I'd carefully organized. He'd suggest changes, expensive, unnecessary changes, and my parents would consider them seriously, as if he had any idea what he was talking about. "We should get rid of the dim sum carts," he said once. "They're outdated. People want modern." "The dim sum carts are our signature," I replied, keeping my voice level. "They're literally what we're known for. Every review mentions them." "Yeah, but that's old school. We need to evolve." My father looked between us, uncomfortable. "Maybe Marcus has a point. We could test it." "No," I said firmly. "That would be a mistake. I have 10 years of customer feedback data that shows—" "You're being defensive," Marcus interrupted, that easy smile still in place. "I'm just trying to help." I wanted to scream. Instead, I pulled up spreadsheets, showed them the numbers, explained why every element of our current model worked. They nodded, agreed we'd keep things as they were. But the fact that it was even a discussion felt like a betrayal. The real blow came on a Thursday afternoon in March. My parents called a family meeting unusual, formal. We sat in the office after closing the restaurant quiet around us. My mother's hands were folded on the desk. My father looked everywhere except at me. "We've been thinking about succession planning," my mother began. "Your father and I aren't getting younger. We need to think about the restaurant's future." "Okay," I said slowly. "I have some thoughts about that. I've been researching franchise models, and I think we could—" "We're making Marcus the owner." My father cut in. The words rushed, like he needed to get them out before he lost his nerve. The office tilted. "What?" "We're transferring ownership to Marcus. Legally. Officially. He'll take over operations, make decisions, run the business." I stared at them, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. "You're joking." "We've thought about this carefully," my mother said, her voice artificially gentle. "Marcus has a business degree. He understands corporate structure, modern management. And, well, you're a woman, Jade. You'll get married eventually. Have children. This business needs someone who can commit fully. I have committed fully. The words exploded out of me. For 10 years, I gave up college, I took out loans. I built everything here from nothing while Marcus was getting drunk at frat parties. Don't be dramatic, my father said, frustrated now. We're not taking anything from you. You'll still work here, still get paid. Paid by my baby brother? To run the business I created? You didn't create it, my father snapped. We created it. This is our restaurant, our investment, our choice. The office went silent. My mother looked down. Marcus, sitting quietly in the corner, had the decency to look uncomfortable. When? I asked quietly. The paperwork is being finalized next week, my mother said. It's already decided, Jade. We wanted to tell you so it wouldn't be a surprise. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. Behind me, I heard my mother call my name, but I kept walking. Out of the office, through the kitchen I'd redesigned, past the dining room I'd filled with customers, out into the parking lot where I'd spent countless nights planning and dreaming and building. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, hands shaking on the steering wheel, before I finally drove home. That night, I started planning. The first thing I did was document everything. Every recipe I'd developed, every supplier contact, every system and process and innovation I'd implemented. I had files going back years, my own notes, separate from the restaurant's records. I backed everything up, printed copies, stored them carefully. Then I started reaching out, quietly, carefully, to the head chef who'd told me once that he stayed because of me, not my parents. To our best servers who'd been with us for years. To suppliers I'd developed personal relationships with, not offering anything yet, just checking in, letting them know I was thinking about new opportunities. I showed up at the restaurant the next week, smiled at my parents, congratulated Marcus on his new position. They looked relieved, like they'd been bracing for more drama. I asked Marcus when he wanted to start the official transition, told him I'd help however he needed. That's great, Jade, my mother said, squeezing my hand. I knew you'd understand. I understood perfectly. For 3 months, I was the model employee. I showed Marcus everything: how to read the reservation system, how to manage inventory, how to handle difficult customers. He learned slowly, reluctantly, clearly bored by the operational details. He preferred the big picture stuff, he said. Strategy, vision, the fun parts. I didn't mind. The more he relied on me, the more obvious it became that he had no idea how to actually run a restaurant. During those months, I was also working 18-hour days, but not for Golden Lotus. I found a space 15 minutes away, closer to downtown, better foot traffic, smaller than Golden Lotus, but with potential. The owner was retiring, willing to lease it cheap to the right person. I signed a 2-year lease using the money I'd saved over a decade of barely paying myself. I reached out to vendors I'd worked with for years, negotiated deals on equipment, bought secondhand when I could. I designed the space myself, intimate, modern, but with traditional touches. Not a copy of Golden Lotus, something new, something mine. The head chef from Golden Lotus came to see the space in early June. I showed him the kitchen, explained my vision-elevated dim sum, creative takes on traditional dishes, a focus on local ingredients and sustainability. When do we start? He asked. 3 of our best servers followed, then our weekend bartender. One by one, people I'd worked with for years chose to come with me. Not because I poached them, I never badmouthed my family, never spoke against Golden Lotus. I simply offered them something better. Respect, fair wages, a workplace where their experience mattered. My parents didn't notice. They were too busy teaching Marcus, too focused on the transition. And Marcus didn't notice because he'd never known who actually made the restaurant run. I gave my 2 weeks' notice in July. Professional, courteous, no drama. My father looked surprised but not concerned. "What will you do?" he asked. "I'm opening my own place," I said simply. My mother laughed. Actually laughed. "Jade, honey, starting a restaurant from scratch is incredibly difficult. You've only ever worked in an established business. Maybe you should—" "I'll be fine," I said. Marcus looked uncomfortable. "Where's the restaurant going to be?" 15 minutes from here." The temperature in the room dropped. My father's face hardened. "You're opening a competitor?" "I'm opening a restaurant. Whether it competes depends on how well you run this one." "That's incredibly disloyal," my mother said, her voice sharp. "After everything we've done for you." "After everything you've done for me?" I repeated softly. "You gave away 10 years of my work to someone who couldn't tell you the difference between hoisin sauce and oyster sauce without reading the label. So yes, I'm opening my own restaurant. And I'm going to be successful." I walked out that day and never went back. Lotus and Moon opened in September, exactly 2 months after I left Golden Lotus. Small space, 12 tables, a menu I developed over months of testing and refinement. Modern dim sum with creative fusion elements, traditional techniques with unexpected ingredients. We didn't try to be Golden Lotus. We were something completely different. And people loved it immediately. The same food bloggers who'd discovered Golden Lotus through my outreach found Lotus and Moon. The same customers who'd become regulars because of my personal touch followed me to the new location. Within 2 weeks, we were fully booked every night. Within a month, we had a waiting list. Golden Lotus started struggling almost immediately. Without me managing suppliers, their costs went up. Without me managing staff, service deteriorated. Without me maintaining customer relationships, regulars started drifting away. And without me creating content and managing their online presence, their visibility dropped. Marcus tried. I'll give him that. He implemented some of his modern ideas, replaced the dim sum carts with plated service, updated the menu to be more contemporary, raised prices to seem more upscale. Every decision alienated their core customers without attracting new ones. 3 months after I left, my mother called. I almost didn't answer. "Jade, we need to talk." Her voice was strained, careful. "The restaurant we're having some difficulties. We thought maybe you could come back, help us figure things out." "I have my own restaurant," I said simply. "Just temporarily, just to help Marcus get his footing." "No? Jade, please. We're family. Don't let pride destroy what we've built." "What we've built?" I laughed, surprised by how bitter it sounded. "Mom, you gave away what I built. You chose Marcus over me. Decided my decade of work was worth less than his business degree. So now you get to live with that choice." "That's cruel," she whispered. "No," I said quietly. "It's a boundary. I hope you figure things out. I really do. But I'm not coming back." I hung up, blocked their numbers. Not out of anger, I was past anger. Out of necessity. They'd taught me that family doesn't mean what I thought it meant. So I built a new definition. 6 months after Lotus and Moon opened, we expanded into the space next door. By the 1-year mark, we doubled our seating and hired 12 employees. Food critics from the city started making the drive out to review us. We got written up in national publications. I won a local Young Entrepreneur Award. And Golden Lotus? Last I heard from a former coworker, they'd had to scale back hours. Marcus had tried to sell it, but couldn't find buyers at the price they wanted. My father had to come out of semi-retirement to work the kitchen again because they couldn't afford the staff they needed. I don't take pleasure in it. Not really. But I don't feel guilty either. Marcus tried to reach out once, about a year after I left. Sent a long email about how he understood now how hard I'd worked, how much I'd sacrificed, how he hadn't appreciated it at the time, how maybe we could talk, figure things out. I wrote back, I appreciate the apology, but I'm not interested in rebuilding a relationship where I have to prove my worth. I hope you figure out the restaurant. I hope you learn what it actually takes to build something. But I'm done teaching you. I meant it kindly. I think he knew that. These days, I barely think about Golden Lotus. I'm too busy running Lotus and Moon, training new staff, developing seasonal menus, planning our next expansion. I'm dating someone I met through the restaurant, a local farmer who supplies our vegetables. I have friends who are colleagues, not just family members. I have a life outside of obligation. My parents still send holiday cards. I don't send them back, but I don't throw them away either. Maybe someday I'll be ready to talk. Maybe not. Either way, I'm okay with it. Because here's what I learned. Loyalty isn't supposed to be one-directional. Family isn't supposed to take everything and give nothing. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who can't see your value. I didn't burn Golden Lotus down. I didn't sabotage them or spread rumors or try to destroy what they had. I simply removed myself from the equation and let them face the reality they'd created, a business that couldn't run without me, handed to someone who didn't know how to run it. That's not revenge. That's consequence. And if you've ever built something beautiful only to watch someone else take credit, if you've ever been told your work doesn't matter as much as someone else's potential, if you've ever had to choose between proving your worth and knowing your worth, you're not alone. The difference between those two things, proving versus knowing, is everything. I know my worth now, and nobody can take that from me.